Most mechanics are good people. They work hard, they know their craft, and they've helped a lot of us get back on the road when we needed it most. But, like in any industry, there are a few bad apples, and when they see a motorcycle roll into the shop, they see dollar signs, not spark plugs. The problem is, unless you've got years of wrenching under your belt, it's easy to miss the warning signs. The upsells, the vague answers, the little tricks that quietly turn a $200 job into an $800 invoice. And if you're a new rider or don't know your way around a socket wrench, you're the perfect target. So today we're calling it out, not to bash mechanics, but to help you ride smarter. These are the real signs a mechanic might be scamming you, stretching the truth, or just flat out wasting your money. Because when it's your bike and your wallet on the line, a little knowledge goes a long way. Number 1. They won't show you the old parts they replaced. You pick up your bike, you pay the bill, and the mechanic says they replaced your brake pads, spark plugs, and maybe even your clutch cable. But when you ask to see the old parts, they've already been thrown out, got picked up for recycling, or weren't saved. Big red flag. Any honest mechanic should have no problem showing you the parts they pulled off your bike. It's basic transparency. You don't need a mechanical engineering degree to see if a brake pad is worn out or if a plug looks fouled. And if they really did the work, showing you the old parts is easy and expected. Shady shops rely on the fact that most riders won't ask. They'll say they changed something and charge for it, knowing you'll never follow up. Especially if the part isn't easily visible on the bike. The scam here isn't always that the work wasn't done, it's that you can't confirm it either way. That doubt, that's exactly what they're counting on. So here's the rule. If you're paying for parts, ask to see the old ones. If they hesitate, backpedal, or suddenly get weirdly defensive, you're probably not getting the whole story. Number 2. They diagnose a huge problem without doing a proper inspection. You bring in your bike for something simple. Maybe it's a weird noise, a slight hesitation, or just regular maintenance. And before they even lift a wrench, they hit you with, "Your top end's probably shot," or "You're gonna need a full rebuild," or the classic, "This is gonna be expensive." Hold up. How do they know that already? If a mechanic starts throwing around major diagnoses without doing a real inspection, they're either guessing, upselling, or both. Real diagnostics take time. You need compression tests, leak down tests, visual inspection, data logging. Something other than, "It sounded bad when I pushed it into the shop." Scammers love to use fear as a tool. They'll toss out scary sounding words like catastrophic, critical, or dangerous to get you to agree to more work without questioning it. And if they sense you're not mechanically inclined, that pressure gets even stronger. A good mechanic explains what they checked, what they found, and why it points to a certain issue. If they're skipping all that and going straight to doom and gloom territory, they're either rushing, lazy, or hoping you'll just say, "Do whatever it takes." And that's how you end up paying for repairs you didn't need. Number 3. They insist on replacing parts that don't wear out often. You go in for a routine checkup and somehow end up with a quote that includes replacing your ignition coils, throttle cables, and rear caliper on a bike that's been running fine. Sound familiar? A classic scam move is pushing low wear or long life parts as urgent replacements. They bank on the fact that you won't know which parts are supposed to last a long time. Things like coils, fuel injectors, throttle bodies, and calipers don't usually fail unless there's real damage or high mileage. They don't get swapped out at every oil change. But if a mechanic wants to pad the bill, these parts are gold. They're expensive, they sound important, and they're hard to verify without testing equipment. And if they tack them onto a repair quote with 10 other items, most people just say yes to avoid future problems. The honest move is to test the component, not just guess. If your coil's weak, they should show you a misfire or a diagnostic readout. If your cable's frayed, they should point it out in person. And if they can't show you proof and it's not a common wear item, that needed replacement might just be a profit booster. Number 4. They won't let you talk to the tech who worked on your bike. You've got questions. reasonable ones. Maybe about how something was fixed, what they found, or why a certain part was replaced. But instead of letting you talk to the actual mechanic, the service writer just gives vague answers like, "He's busy," or "I'm not sure, but I'll check," or worse, "We'll call you later." And that call never comes. This isn't always a scam, but when a shop refuses to let you speak directly with the person who did the work, it's a sign something's off. Either they don't trust their tech to talk to customers, or they don't want you asking questions that might reveal they cut corners, guessed in the diagnosis, or didn't actually fix the issue. You wouldn't take your dog to a vet and only talk to the receptionist about surgery. Why should your bike be any different? A good shop has techs who can explain their work. They're not afraid to talk tools, walk you through what they saw, or answer your questions. If a shop shields their mechanics like they're in witness protection, that's not professionalism, that's deflection. And it usually means they don't want you pulling on a thread that might unravel the whole invoice. Number 5. They recommend routine services way too early. Ever had a mechanic suggest replacing your brake fluid at 3,000 miles? Or say your valves definitely need adjustment at 5,000? Or tell you it's time for a new chain even though it looks factory fresh? Welcome to the world of premature maintenance upsells. Yes, maintenance is important. Yes, doing it early sometimes makes sense. But if a shop is routinely recommending services way before the manufacturer does, you're either dealing with a scam or a shop that treats the service schedule like a sales catalog. It's especially bad with things like coolant flushes, spark plug swaps, or fork oil changes. They're all real necessary services. Not every service is urgent at every visit. The good shops check wear, mileage, and usage. The shady ones just pull up a list and start reading off prices. Want to test them? Ask what the manual says. If they brush it off with, "Well, we like to be safe," that's code for "we like to bill more." Number 6. They don't give you a written estimate first. You drop off your bike and say, "Let me know what it'll cost before you do anything." But then your phone rings 2 days later and they say, "It's all done. $860, please." Wait, what? Shops that skip the written estimate phase and just plow ahead are either disorganized or deliberately trying to push charges past your comfort zone. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Get the bike torn apart so you feel obligated to approve the work. By law, in many states, they're supposed to provide a written estimate and get your approval before exceeding it. But if they don't, and you don't ask, they'll often just assume you're okay with whatever number they land on. Always get the quote in writing, and if they refuse, that's your cue to walk. Number 7. They use parts you didn't approve. You asked for a tire replacement. They gave you a different brand. You approved a basic chain. They installed an X-Ring Gold Race chain because it was all we had in stock. Shops that swap parts without approval are taking liberties with your money. And while sometimes it's genuinely a supply issue, they still need to ask you first. You're not paying for their convenience, you're paying for your decision. The scam here is subtle. They upcharge the part, install it, and then say, "Well, we figured you'd be okay with it." That's not how this works. You're the rider. You make the call. Always ask for a parts list before they start. And if the invoice lists something you didn't discuss, push back. Number 8. They say, "This bike always has problems." One of the worst red flags is when a mechanic shrugs and says, "Yeah, these bikes are just known for issues." Translation: I don't know what's wrong, and I'm hoping you'll stop asking. Sometimes it's true. Some models have quirks. But if your mechanic starts blaming the brand or bike for every little issue without backing it up, it usually means they're covering up a lazy or incomplete diagnosis. This is extra common with less popular brands, budget bikes, or anything not Japanese or American. If they act like your bike is too weird to work on, or if they seem annoyed by the badge on the tank, you're not getting quality work. Good mechanics figure it out. Bad ones blame the bike. Number 9. They talk in vague terms and avoid straight answers. You ask what's wrong and they say stuff like, "It's just not running right. It was acting weird." We just adjusted some things. Cool. What things? When a mechanic can't or won't explain what they did with actual terms, it's either because they're hiding something or they don't fully understand it themselves. And that's scary. You don't need a 20-minute lecture on combustion cycles, but you do deserve answers like, your TPS was out of range, so we recalibrated it. Or, we found a pinched fuel line under the tank. Clear answers build trust. Vague ones kill it. Number 10. They get defensive when you ask for clarification. The final red flag is all about attitude. Ask a question, any question, and suddenly they act like you just accused them of grand theft. You ask why something was done and they snap back, "Are you questioning my work?" You ask for a breakdown of charges and they act insulted. If a mechanic can't handle basic customer communication without getting hostile or passive-aggressive, that's not just bad service, it's a power move. They want you to feel dumb or intimidated, so you stop asking. A good mechanic welcomes your curiosity. A bad one makes you feel like you've just crossed a line for wanting to understand where your money went. And that's the biggest scam of all, making you feel like asking questions is the problem. Number 11. They fix one problem, but somehow another one appears. You take your bike in for a basic job, maybe a throttle adjustment, a fork seal replacement, or a clutch cable swap. The kind of repair that's supposed to solve a problem, not create a new one. But then you ride away and something feels off. The throttle's sticky, the idle's weird, and the turn signals don't work. The issue you came in for might be fixed, but now something else has mysteriously gone wrong. Coincidence? Sure, sometimes. Bikes are complex, but when a new problem pops up immediately after a visit to the shop, especially a system they shouldn't have even touched, it's worth raising an eyebrow. In some cases, it's sloppiness. A mechanic forgot to tighten a bolt, pinched a wire, left a vacuum line loose. In worse cases, it's intentional. Unscrupulous shops will fix one issue and quietly create another to guarantee repeat business. They know you'll be back soon, and now they've got another invoice all lined up. This is especially frustrating for riders who don't work on their own bikes. You're stuck in a loop of, was it me? Or did the bike just fail? Instead of knowing for sure the shop screwed something up. A good shop takes responsibility and double checks their work. They test ride the bike, they retorque bolts, they make sure nothing they touched affects something else. A shady shop hands you the keys, takes the money, and lets you figure it out on the ride home. When every repair seems to cause a new issue, the problem isn't the bike, it's who's working on it. Number 12. They avoid giving you a timeline, then blame delays for everything. You drop off the bike and ask a simple question. When do you think it'll be done? The answer? We'll let you know. That's it. No estimate, no target, no clue whether it'll be 2 days or 2 weeks. And that's your first warning. Shops that refuse to give even a ballpark timeline often do it for one reason. They don't want to be held accountable. If they never said when it would be done, they can't be late. Every delay becomes your fault for asking. We're waiting on parts. Our tech is backed up. Something came up. Some shops do get busy. That's real. But the honest ones keep you informed. They call when parts are delayed. They let you know if something's taking longer than expected. What they don't do is ghost you for 4 days, then act surprised when you ask for an update. And if you do call, you're met with vague answers, a promise to call back that never comes, or worse, defensiveness, like you're being unreasonable for expecting progress. A trusty shop gives you a timeline, even if it's rough. They stick to it, and if they can't, they communicate. A shop that hides behind the calendar is usually hiding more than just your bike. Number 13. They say, labor took longer than expected, without explaining why. You agreed to the job, you agreed to the price, and then you get the bill. And it's double what you discussed. Why? Labor took longer than expected. That's it. No breakdown, no heads up, no mid-job phone call to say they were running into problems. Just a vague excuse and a much bigger invoice. This one's sneaky because it sounds kind of reasonable on the surface. Sometimes jobs do take longer. Bolts seize, fairings don't come off clean. A repair uncovers something deeper. But here's the thing, good shops tell you when that happens. Not after the fact when the bill's already printed. A shady mechanic will start a basic job like a tire change or fork rebuild, then tack on 2 extra hours of labor without saying a word. And if you question it, well, your bike's different. Or, it just took longer than expected. That's not transparency, that's a cash grab. Always ask for a labor estimate up front, and if the final hours go over, ask why. What slowed them down? What didn't go to plan? If they can't give you a clear answer, or worse, if they get defensive, that tells you everything you need to know. Labor charges aren't just numbers, they're trust. Once a shop starts padding the clock, they're not fixing your bike anymore, they're milking it. Number 14. They keep test riding your bike for days without explaining why. You drop off your bike for a repair, maybe a fuel issue, maybe some throttle hesitation, maybe just a noise that happens at a certain RPM. They say they'll take a look and probably test ride it once the work's done. Fair enough. But then 3 days go by and you call to check in and they say they're still test riding it. Wait, how many miles does it take to see if your throttle response is fixed? This is one of those gray area red flags that people don't talk about enough. Extended test rides without clear justification can mean a few things, and none of them are great. Sometimes the mechanic is just riding it to work because they know you're not picking it up for a while. Sometimes they're using it to troubleshoot a different issue without telling you. Sometimes they're just enjoying a better bike than their own. And here's the thing, most real test rides are short. You fix a symptom, you take it around the block, you verify the fix. That's it. If they're racking up serious miles or still testing multiple days after the work is supposedly done, you have every right to ask what's going on. If they say they're monitoring something or checking long-term behavior, ask for specifics. If they dodge the question, you might want to check your odometer before and after the next visit. Shops don't get to joyride your bike on your dime, especially not after the fix is finished. Most mechanics are solid, honest people who know way more than they're paid for. But when you run into a shady one, the damage isn't just to your wallet, it's to your trust in the whole system. So ask questions. Ask to see the parts. Get your estimate in writing, because the best defense against a scam is knowing how the game works. Ever been burned by a shop? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear the worst ones. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe, because I got more no BS advice coming your way. Ride smart, wrench smarter, and keep the rubber side down.